Listen, I need to tell you something that's been eating at me for weeks. Remember when we thought the Diddy case was over? When we thought justice was served? We were wrong. Dead wrong. And what I discovered will change how you see power forever.
Why is Sean Diddy Combs still behind bars even after beating the most serious charges against him? Because what happened in that courtroom 6 days ago wasn't victory. It was the beginning of something much worse. The jury found him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution but acquitted him of racketeering, conspiracy and sex trafficking, and that split decision just opened a door that should have stayed closed. His attorneys wanted him released on a $1 million bond, but Judge Arun Subramanian ruled against that request. Why? Because this case is far from over. But here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you. He has faced more than 70 sexual assault lawsuits since November 2023. That's not a coincidence. That's a coordinated legal attack that goes beyond anything we've seen in celebrity scandals. And here's the kicker: prosecutors said they will seek a 4 to 5 year prison sentence. But sources close to the case suggest the real strategy isn't about putting Diddy away, it's about what information comes out during the appeals process. What happens next will shock you. Drop your theories in the comments, because what you're about to hear changes everything. Let me break down what really happened in that Manhattan federal courtroom. Sean Diddy Combs was found guilty of 2 of the 5 charges he faced in his racketeering, conspiracy and sex trafficking trial on Wednesday, marking the end to a 10-week trial. But here's what you didn't see on the news. The jury told the judge it reached a verdict on 4 counts but couldn't agree on the racketeering charge, saying there were jurors with unpersuadable views. Think about that. After 10 weeks of testimony, after seeing all the evidence, some jurors couldn't be convinced either way. Tell me in the comments, what do you think that really means? The public narrative was simple: music mogul faces justice, gets convicted on lesser charges, case moves to sentencing. But legal experts I've spoken to say this mixed verdict creates something far more dangerous than a clean conviction would have. Why? Because now Diddy has grounds to appeal. And during appeals, sealed evidence becomes public. Witness testimony gets scrutinized. Names that were protected during trial suddenly become fair game. Let me ask you something: when was the last time you saw a celebrity case this messy? Drop your thoughts below, because this next part will make you question everything you thought you knew about how justice works for the powerful. A juror in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs is speaking out after the jury acquitted the music mogul of 2 counts of sex trafficking and 1 count of conspiracy to commit racketeering but convicted him on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. But what that juror said reveals something disturbing about how this case was presented. The prosecution's case wasn't just about proving guilt, it was about building a record. A record that includes testimony from witnesses who described a pattern of behavior spanning decades. A record that includes evidence of payments, communications, and logistics that suggest a much larger operation than what made it to trial. Are you starting to see the bigger picture? Comment below with your theories, because what happens next will confirm your worst fears. Subramanian proposed a sentencing date of October 3, 2025. That's 3 months away. 3 months for evidence to leak. 3 months for witnesses to come forward. 3 months for the civil cases to build momentum. Speaking of civil cases, let's talk about those 70+ lawsuits. Each one represents a potential criminal referral. Each one represents testimony that could be used in future prosecutions. Each one represents a person who now has legal protection to speak publicly about what they experienced. But here's where it flips, because Diddy's not just facing prison time. He's facing a legal avalanche that could reshape how we think about celebrity accountability. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough, he said. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of. That's what his lawyer said after the verdict. But notice what he didn't say: that his client was innocent of the charges he was actually convicted of. Legal analysts I've spoken to suggest this isn't just about Sean Combs anymore. It's about establishing precedent for how these cases get prosecuted. It's about testing the limits of what federal prosecutors can prove in celebrity cases. Think about it from the prosecution's perspective. They didn't need to win every charge. They just needed to win enough to keep the case alive, to keep the investigation active, to keep the pressure on. What would you do if you were facing this kind of legal strategy? Let me know in the comments, because this next revelation will change how you see everything. The judge denied bail for the Bad Boy Records founder, saying it would be impossible for Combs to prove he does not pose a danger. That's not standard language for someone convicted of prostitution-related charges. That's language reserved for people who pose an ongoing threat to witnesses or the community. But what kind of threat? What does the judge know that we don't? What evidence was presented in sealed hearings that convinced him Diddy needs to stay locked up? The answer to those questions will determine not just Sean Combs' fate, but the fate of everyone connected to this case. And based on what I've learned from sources close to the investigation, that list is longer than anyone imagined. Are you ready for what comes next? Because this is where the story takes a turn that no one saw coming. And then came the pattern recognition. Combs will remain in detention while he awaits his sentencing. Judge Arun Subramanian said later Wednesday he denied bail because he disagreed with the defense's argument that the crimes shouldn't trigger mandatory detention. But here's what legal experts are whispering about: mandatory detention is typically reserved for cases involving organized crime, terrorism, or ongoing criminal enterprises. Why would a judge invoke that standard for prostitution charges? The answer is in the sealed evidence. Evidence that suggests this wasn't just about individual acts, it was about a system. A system that required coordination, planning, and resources that go beyond what one person could manage alone. What's your breaking point? Comment below, because this next piece of evidence crosses lines that can't be uncrossed. Combs will remain behind bars until his sentencing hearing, currently scheduled for October 3rd. However, the judge has asked the prosecution and defense to meet on July 8 to discuss moving up the sentencing date. Why would prosecutors want to move up sentencing? Because keeping high-profile defendants in federal custody for extended periods creates security risks and media attention they want to avoid. But here's what's really happening: every day Diddy spends in federal custody is another day for other investigations to build cases. Federal prisoners talk. They make deals. They provide information about other crimes in exchange for reduced sentences. And Sean Combs knows things. Things about parties. Things about payments. Things about people who thought they were protected by NDAs and shell companies. Are you connecting the dots? Share your theories in the comments, because what I'm about to tell you will confirm your worst suspicions. The prosecution's real strategy wasn't to destroy Sean Combs. It was to flip him. To turn him into a witness against bigger targets. To use his knowledge of the entertainment industry's dark side as leverage in cases we haven't even heard about yet. But here's the problem: flipping someone like Diddy means admitting that the system he operated in was bigger than just him. It means acknowledging that what happened was facilitated by people who are still in positions of power. And those people? They have resources. They have connections. They have ways of making problems disappear that go far beyond legal technicalities. So now the question isn't whether Diddy will serve his sentence. It's whether he'll live long enough to serve it. And whether the information he has will ever see the light of day. This isn't just celebrity justice anymore. It's a test case for how the legal system handles cases that implicate entire industries. Every hearing between now and October 3rd will determine not just Sean Combs' fate, but the fate of a system that has operated in the shadows for decades. Will the appeals process expose the full scope of what happened? Or will powerful interests find ways to keep the most damaging information sealed forever? The civil cases are moving forward. The criminal appeals are being prepared. And somewhere in federal custody, Sean Combs is making decisions about what information he's willing to trade for a reduced sentence. Don't blink. Hit that subscribe button because the next 3 months will determine whether this case becomes a footnote in celebrity scandal history or the beginning of something that changes everything. The real trial isn't over. It's just beginning. And this time, the stakes are higher than anyone imagined. Let me know in the comments what you think happens next. Because something tells me October 3rd is going to be just the beginning of this story. And remember, in a world where justice moves slowly but information moves fast, staying informed isn't just smart. It's essential.